What's up, y'all? Welcome to the FAA podcast. It is a scorcher in here and trying not to sweat. AC not working. Getting it fixed tomorrow, though, hopefully. Got a lot of action going on throughout the leagues, USFL re-signings. We got college football news, NFL news, a whole bunch of it going on as we are rounding into training camp form. It is that time of year. Football will be back before you know it in just a few short weeks, getting the preseason started in August. Um, and we will finish off with the Conference USA preview today, continuing our college conference previews. So let's get started with the USFL. Couple re-signings to talk about. The Generals re-signing a whole bunch of players. Wide receiver Alonzo Moore, tight end Braden Bowman, linebacker Chris Orr, linebacker Dwan Hines, safeties Shalom Luani and Paris Ford as well. The Generals seem like they will be a team to reckon with and might be the team to beat next season, depending on what happens at the quarterback position for Birmingham. But the Generals have re-signed most of their roster, their key contributors, anyways, and it looks like I said, that they will be one of the favorites heading into 2024. The Stallions, though, I mentioned them. They re-signed wide receiver Marlon Williams. Season cut short relatively early with a torn Achilles injury, so he looks to rebound after a fantastic year one in 2022 there. And lastly, for the USFL, quarterback Kyle Sloter is returning to the league in 2024. Not sure which team he's going to play for yet. Ended the season on the Birmingham Stallions team as a backup, but looking for a starting opportunity somewhere that he can catapult into probably his last shot at the NFL. College football news, University of Tennessee. They have been ordered to vacate 11 wins from the 2019-2020 seasons as part of the NCAA penalties after the investigation of former head coach Jeremy Pruitt. They were also fined the largest fine ever enforced on a school, $8 million, and placed on 5-year probation. No postseason bowl ban, though. Luckily for them, that was one of the biggest things one of their greatest goals out of this was to avoid that postseason ban. And the reasoning behind why they were not issued a bowl ban was the Committee on Infractions. They really wanted to emphasize that the current players on the team should not be penalized for a former coach and former player's activities. And also the cooperation that the university and everyone at Tennessee had with the investigation also played a big part into no bowl ban. But 11 wins vacated for those 2 seasons under Jeremy Pruitt. NFL news, rookies reporting yesterday for the Falcons, Ravens, Bills, Chiefs, Chargers, Dolphins, Saints, and Giants. The Jets became the first team in the league to have everyone back today. They're rookies and veterans reporting today for training camp. So, again, we are getting there, y'all. Couple more weeks, and we'll have some games to talk about preseason-wise, and the season will be here before you know it in September. The Bengals, they are keeping running back Joe Mixon, restructuring his contract. He took pay cuts of $4.39 million in 2023, $4.67 million in 2024, possibly allowing him to return next season as well. I know I was very distraught about that news, having drafted Chase Brown in a couple of leagues. I was very excited to see what Brown could do as a possible starter this year. Might have to wait 1 or 2 seasons, though, however, for Mr. Brown to become the starter. So, unfortunately, for dynasty guys that have Brown like me, it's a wait and see game now. You got to hold them. The franchise tag deadline occurred on Monday. We had just one guy get a deal right near the deadline there. Jaguars, they signed tight end Evan Ingram to a 3-year, $41.25 million deal, $24 million guaranteed. Again, another one that I was kind of hoping wouldn't happen because of my comments on Brenton Strange when we did the fantasy focus aspect of the AFC South division, and it talked about the Jags and tight end Brenton Strange for them. I thought he would have a pretty solid impact in 2024 and beyond. Probably not going to be the case with Evan Ingram in town unless the injury bug creeps up like he had while he was in New York. However, none of the running backs got paid, and that's been a big storyline throughout the league the last couple days. Cowboys running back Tony Pollard, Giants running back Saquon Barkley, Raiders running back Josh Jacobs did not get deals done. Barkley and Jacobs won't show up to camp, and they won't be fined because they didn't sign their franchise tenders. So they are good to go there. And Pollard probably going to show up because he will get fined since he was the only one of the three to sign his tag. Another guy probably not going to show up, Cowboys guard Zach Martin, considering not reporting. Wants a new contract. He is paid $7 million less than the highest paid guard in the league. And Zach Martin just got newly minted with the Madden 99 club, which I thought was interesting considering he's relatively older and he's been one of the best guards in the league, but wants to be paid like it now. So we'll see if Mr. Martin gets a new deal or not. They have a bunch of other guys they would like to get done. Trayvon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb as well. So he might have to wait a little bit for that one. Guy that did not have to wait, the Steelers. They signed linebacker Alex Highsmith to a 4-year, $68 million deal, and he gets paid there. Excellent deal. Alex Highsmith coming off career year, 14.5 sacks last season. Him and TJ Watt continue to be one of the best pass rushing duos in the league. Former third-round pick out of UAB, I believe. And just excited to have him on for this foreseeable future now. Injuries. The Giants, they placed linebacker Jared Davis on IR, ending his 2023 season. Had a knee injury in OTAs, so he will not play this season. We are getting into training camp mode, so we will have NFI and PUP list players being placed on those lists. The Saints placing rookie running back Kendre Miller on the NFI non-football injury list. That's because with rookies especially, they came into the NFL with a designated injury. So that is why the NFI and not the PUP, physically unable to perform list with Kendre Miller. The Jets, they placed a bunch of guys on the PUP list, though. Running back Breece Hall continuing to rehab from that ACL last year. Wide receiver Randall Cobb and tight end CJ Uzama as well placed on PUP. So they will not be on the field to start camp. The Browns, they released defensive tackle Perrion Winfrey after an alleged aggravated robbery incident on yesterday, I believe. Perrion Winfrey, interesting to note because he was just last year a 4th-round pick of the Browns. So I guess Cleveland's trying to make a statement. They had the whole Deshaun Watson thing. They don't want any more guys out there on their team that have legal issues. So who knows? But Perrion Winfrey, once his legal situation gets resolved, we'll see if there is a suspension coming or not. And the Jets, they are planning to release wide receiver Denzel Mims if they are unable to find a trade partner shortly. Probably going to end up being a release. Hopefully Mims can find a new spot quickly, get into training camp, and be refreshed with a move somewhere. And the one big signing to talk about in between our shows, the Titans have signed Cardinals wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins to a 2-year, $26 million deal, $32 million max value. More money there. But when I saw he signed with the Titans, I went,
what?
And because it's not a good team. I understand kind of what he saw in them. He was looking for a couple things. He wanted a consistent quarterback play, which is iffy with Ryan Tannehill under center. And if Tannehill struggles, they have to go to rookie quarterback Will Levis or second-year guy Malik Willis, who was terrible as a rookie. I don't think the quarterback situation is the greatest in Tennessee. One of the other things he also wanted was a championship caliber defense. I will agree with D-Hop to an extent. Tennessee does have somewhat of a championship caliber defense. Jeffrey Simmons is a beast. They have some good linebackers. They have no pass rush, though, outside of Simmons. And the secondary, I feel, is suspect anyways, with a lot of younger players, a lot of high day 1 and 2 draft picks that haven't really worked so far. So I am suspect on the signing. Don't think he's going to win a championship with Tennessee. And he's probably going to hit all his escalators to get his incentives, but and he's really the only wide receiver that they have. Traylon Burks struggled as a rookie after getting concussed against, I think that was the Eagles last year, and was really never the same. So D-Hop's going to get a lot of work in the passing game when they do pass. They still do have Derrick Henry, so it's a run-based offense, but we'll see. We'll see how it works with Hop in Nashville there. The Patriots, they worked out Bucs running back Leonard Fournette today. So another running back, of course, Bill Belichick loves his running backs. So playoff Lenny could be headed to the Patriots shortly. We'll see. And the Ravens, they hosted Jags defensive end Dwayne Smoot. Tore his Achilles late last year. Hopefully he'll be ready for the start of the season this year. Ravens, that would be a good addition for them. They need some pass rush help dealing with some inexperience there. And we have one XFL to NFL signing, the Giants, doing a lot of spring league work lately. They signed Renegades defensive back Darren Evans, so XFL champion there, and pretty solid coverage player as well. Giants looking for some depth in the secondary. The USFL to NFL guys here. The Giants, again, like I mentioned, they're doing a lot of spring work here. They worked out Gamblers running back Mark Thompson and Maulers linebacker Kiava Tizino. Mentioned Jared Davis going on IR, so maybe Tizino fits into that spot on the roster relatively easily. And then Mark Thompson, that's an interesting one. They drafted Eric Gray this year out of Oklahoma. Saquon may be holding out, so maybe Mark Thompson gets a shot, see what he can do for the G-men. Generals quarterback DeAndre Johnson, he has some NFL interest from Cleveland and Houston. The Browns and Texans looking at him currently. has yet to sign with either team or any other team yet. The guy that did sign, though, Packers, they signed Stallions, two-time ex-USFL champion quarterback Alex McGough. That's a great signing for Green Bay. He had interest from about a third of the league, and teams were knocking on his door left and right. So Packers win the McGough lottery there, and we'll see if he is the primary backup to Jordan Love. Just want to see what the Packers depth looks at quarterback now, because I know they didn't have much behind Jordan Love. They drafted Sean Clifford. They have Danny Etling, former 7th-round pick of the Patriots, and then Alex McGough. So McGough's got a good shot, I think. I don't think Danny Etling will give him much of a competition, but Sean Clifford will probably be his biggest competition there as they try to battle it out for the backup job. And let's move on to the – I forgot to say the nope, never mind. Let's move on to the Conference USA preview. This conference is intriguing to say the least. It was very difficult to pick this conference this year. A lot of losses in terms of teams. They lost UTSA, UNT. Who else did they lose here? So they lost UTSA, UNT, UAB, FAU, Rice, and Charlotte. So most of the conference lost. They returned just 5 teams from their from their 11-team conference last year. Luckily, they got some other teams, though. They added New Mexico State, Liberty from the FBS Independence, and they bring in Jacksonville State and Sam Houston State, two really solid FCS programs as well, getting them back to 9. So they're still net minus 2 teams, with Kennesaw State coming in next season from the FCS. So let's talk about the highest finishing school first for the 5 returning CUSA teams here. Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers, they return some good production. Quarterback Austin Reed, 2nd-team All-Conference. Wide receiver Malachi Corley, 1st-team. Offensive line Quantavius Leslie, honorable mention, as was offensive lineman Vincent Murphy. Linebacker Jaquez Evans, 1st-team. Defensive back Upton Stout, honorable mention. And punter Tom Ellard, honorable mention as well. Key losses, they lost quite a bit, especially to the transfer portal. Really weird. Tyson Helton returns as head coach, so it was odd to see all their transfers out. So quarterback Jarrett Deggy transferred. Running back Kai Robichaux transferred, honorable mention. Wide receiver Daywood Davis to the NFL. He was an honorable mention. Tight end Joshua Simon transferred, 2nd-team. Tight end Joey Belgian transferred. Offensive lineman Gunnar Britton transferred, 2nd-team. Offensive lineman Rusty Stats transferred. He was an honorable mention. Defensive lineman Jawan Jones to the NFL, honorable mention. Defensive lineman Broderick Martin to the NFL, honorable mention. Linebacker Derek Smith to the NFL, honorable mention. Defensive back Caleb Oliver to the XFL, honorable mention. Defensive back Arthur Brathwaite transferred. Safety Khalif Hayalasi to the NFL, 2nd-team. Kicker Braden Narvison transferred, honorable mention. And long snapper Jake Bowman Not sure if he's transferring or what. He's not on the roster, but hasn't transferred anywhere as of yet. So he was an honorable mention, though, player as well that will not return. Couple of key transfers, though, for Western Kentucky. Quarterback Bronson Barron comes in from Weber State. Wide receiver LaChristian Smith from Cincinnati. And wide receiver Willie Taggart Jr. from FAU. So some solid receivers to go along with Malachi Corley for this spread offense. And quarterback Austin Reed, who led the country in passing. So I have the Hilltoppers finishing second place, 8-4, 6-2 in conference play. I really do like this team, especially in a weaker conference. I think this might be the weakest conference in football this year. They win at home versus USF week 1. They win at home versus Houston Christian week 2, which is the new name for Houston Baptist. They lose at Ohio State, lose at Troy. They win at home against Mid-Tennessee on a Thursday night. They win at Louisiana Tech on a Thursday night. Week 7 bye. They lose at Jacksonville State on a Tuesday. That one's just a weird one. I don't know why. I think that is going to be a loss. They win at home against Liberty on a Tuesday. They lose at UTEP. They win at home against New Mexico State. They win at home against Sam Houston State, and they win at FIU to finish out 8-4, second place in the conference. I could definitely see this Hilltopper team finishing first. It's the loss at Jacksonville State, I think, could flip easily, as well as the loss at UTEP because it's just in El Paso. That one is why I have them losing that. Moving on to the Blue Raiders, Mid-Tennessee. Returning players, they got a bunch of guys returning. Running back Frank Peasant, honorable mention. Defensive tackle Marley Cook, honorable mention. Defensive end Zaylin Wood, honorable mention. Corner Teldrick Ross, second team. Corner DeCorian Patterson, honorable mention. Safety Trafe Llewellyn, honorable mention. And kicker Zeke Rankin, honorable mention. And also long snapper Brody Butler, first team all conference there. Losses for the Blue Raiders: quarterback Chase Cunningham to the NFL, honorable mention. Wide receiver Jalen Lane transferred out. He was a second team as a punt returner. Tight end Isaiah Gathings to the NFL, honorable mention. Offensive lineman Jordan Palmer to the NFL, honorable mention. Defensive lineman Jordan Ferguson to the NFL, first team. And punter Kyle Ulbrich to the NFL, first team as well. Just like Western Kentucky, 3 key transfers for Mid-Tennessee here. Running back Jaden Cradle comes in from NIU. Wide receiver Holden Willis from USF. And linebacker Brandon Buckner from Oregon. Couple good players there. Mid-Tennessee, I have them being bowl eligible, 6-6, 4-4 in conference. They lose. They're going to get absolutely boat raced in their first 2 games at Alabama, at Missouri, Tuscaloosa, and Columbia. Not good places to play as a group of 5 team. They win at home against Murray State, though. They win at home against Colorado State. They lose at Western Kentucky on a Thursday night. They win at home against Jacksonville State on a Wednesday. They win at home against Louisiana Tech on a Tuesday. They win at Liberty on a Tuesday. Bye week 9. They lose at New Mexico State. They win at home against FIU, lose at home against UTEP, and lose at Sam Houston State. Could probably win that game, but I have them losing that one since it's an away game. 6-6 for Mid-Tennessee in my book. Heading on to UTEP. They are my 2023 Conference USA champions. I think the Miners have a bunch of players returning and just got to figure out. I think the quarterback should be returning as well. Gavin, I believe. Yes, Gavin Hardison does return. He is listed on their roster once again. So, with the continuity at quarterback, I think that's an excellent reason why the Miners will win this conference. I'll tell you their record in a second, but returning for them, other than Hardison, running back Deion Hankins, second team. Wide receiver Tyron Smith, honorable mention. Wide receiver Marcus Bellin, honorable mention punt returner. Offensive lineman Andrew Meyer, Justin Mayers, Elijah Klein, and Stephen Hubbard, all honorable mention. So 4 offensive linemen return. Defensive tackle Keenan Stewart, honorable mention. Defensive end Praise Amawule, second team. Linebacker Tyrese Knight, second team. Safety Kobe Hilton, honorable mention. Punter Joshua Sloan, honorable mention. And long snapper Angelo Tejada, second team all conference there. And not a lot of losses. Some first team all conference guys, but I think with how much they return, I think it's going to be okay. So they lost offensive lineman Jeremiah Byers. He transferred first team. Defensive lineman Jadrian Taylor to the NFL, first team. Defensive lineman Kelton Moss to the NFL, honorable mention. Linebacker Cal Wallerstedt to the NFL, honorable mention. Linebacker Daryl Miner transferred. Defensive back Dennis Barnes to the NFL, honorable mention. And kicker Gavin Bakel to the NFL, first team all conference as well. No key transfers for UTEP. But again, I just believe with the amount of players returning, they probably would have been one of the key opponents to UTSA if they were still in the conference. But with that, a bunch of good teams leaving, I see no reason why UTEP shouldn't win this conference other than Western Kentucky. That's their biggest competition. So I have them winning the conference by 1 game, 9-3, 7-1 in conference play. They win at Jacksonville State, win at home against UIW. That is incarnate word. They lose at Northwestern. I'm not so sure they can't win that game. Just saying, I think that they will win that one. They lose at Arizona, win at home against UNLV. They win at home against Louisiana Tech on a Friday. Week 7 bye. I actually have them going 10-2, I should say, by the way. They win at FIU on a Wednesday. They win at home against New Mexico State on a Wednesday. They win at Sam Houston State on a Wednesday. They win at home against Western Kentucky. They win at Mid-Tennessee. So 10-2, 8-0 in conference play for the Miners. Oh, and they win at home against Liberty week 13 to get to 10-2. Excellent season. I just think they're not by far, but really solid play for. And the non-conference is pretty easy with UIW, Northwestern, Arizona, and UNLV. Arizona, the toughest out of those 4 teams, I think. And it's tough for Western Kentucky getting Ohio State and Troy on the road. That are losses for them, which will come into play. And also, I think, like I said, the Jacksonville State game for Western Kentucky could make the UTEP game pretty much for the conference, but we shall see. Heading on to the Panthers, FIU here, Florida International. Key returners, quarterback Grayson James, honorable mention. Offensive lineman Jacob Peace, honorable mention. Linebacker Donovan Manuel, honorable mention. And punter Dayton Montiel, honorable mention player there. They lost a bunch, though. Running back E.J. Wilson transferred. Wide receiver Tyrese Chambers transferred. Tight end Rivaldo Fairweather transferred. He was an honorable mention. Defensive lineman Devon Strickland to the NFL, honorable mention. Linebacker Gathan Bernadelle transferred, honorable mention. And linebacker Sean Peterson Jr. to the transferred, honorable mention as well. Couple defensive transfers. Linebacker Avery Huff comes in from Miami, and safety JoJo Evans comes from Kent State. So those two I really like on this Panthers defense. But alas, it will not be a good season in Florida this year. 3-9, I have FIU. 2-6 conference record. They lose at Louisiana Tech week 1. They win at home against Maine. Lose at home against UNT. Lose at UConn. They win at home against Liberty. Week 6 bye. They lose at New Mexico State on a Wednesday. They lose at home against UTEP on a Wednesday. Lose at Sam Houston State on a Wednesday. They win at home against Jacksonville State on a Wednesday. They lose at Mid-Tennessee, lose at Arkansas, and lose at home against Western Kentucky. That's a tough stretch to end the season there. So 3-9 for the Panthers. Again, not great. Even with some guys returning, they got to turn that program around, though, for FIU. Heading on to Louisiana Tech, the Bulldogs. Key returners for LA Tech. Running back Marquise Crosby, honorable mention. Wide receiver Smoke Harris was a first-team punt returner. Offensive lineman Carson Bruno, honorable mention. Offensive lineman Dakota White, honorable mention. Offensive lineman Burt Hale, honorable mention. And defensive back Willie Roberts, honorable mention as well. So just one all-conference defender, but some offensive linemen to work with and a good running back as well. Losses, wide receiver Trey Harris transferred. He was a first-team. Offensive lineman Joshua Moat to the NFL, honorable mention. Defensive lineman Kiwi Rose transferred, first team. Linebacker Tyler Grubbs transferred. That's also a massive one, I think, for them. He's really solid linebacker. Defensive back Miles Brooks to the NFL, second team. And they got some solid pieces, though, on offense. Quarterback Hank Bachmeyer comes in from Boise State. Running back Craig Williams from Baylor, and wide receiver Dakotas Crawford from Nebraska. So that should help this Bulldogs offense a lot. And I have it helping them to the tune of a fourth place finish right around the middle of the conference. I think it's really just the middle of their schedule is just brutal. So they win 6-6, 5-3 conference record. They win at home against FIU. They lose at SMU, though. They win at home against Northwestern State. Then they lose 5 in a row, though. At home against UNT, at Nebraska, at UTEP on a Friday, at home against Western Kentucky on a Thursday, at Mid-Tennessee on a Tuesday, and then a bye week 9. They come out and they win 4 straight to end the year and get to a bowl. They win at home against New Mexico State on a Tuesday. They win at Liberty. They win at home against Sam Houston State, and they win at Jacksonville State to get to 6-6. Pretty solid season, I think, for La Tech. Although it does not end in a conference championship, though, bowl game. Hopefully they can win that one. And that is the last returning team to the conference. But let's talk about the newcomers. So Liberty Flames coming in as an FBS independent, returning just 2 key starters, running back Day Hunter, second team All-Independent, defensive tackle Kendi Charles, first team All-Independent. They lost a ton off of this team, especially Hugh Freeze moving to Auburn. Tough situation, heading to a new conference as well. So I do not think it's going to be the greatest for Liberty in year one, Conference USA, but it's not the worst either. Losses, running back Shedro Lewis. He was the specialist of the year in the FBS Independents. Third team All-Independent as a kick returner. Wide receiver Demario Douglas to the NFL, first team. defensive tackle Dennis Osagide, Osagide and to the NFL. Second team defensive end Darrell Johnson to the NFL. He was the defensive player of the year, and a first team linebacker Ahmad Walker transferred. Second team corner Chris Meganson transferred. Safety Robert Rahimi transferred. He was the safety of the year and a first teamer. Safety Javon Scruggs to the NFL, second team as a flex on defense, and punter Aiden Alves to the NFL, second team as well. Just one key transfer for Liberty. Running back Quentin Cooley comes in from Wake Forest, should provide that offense with some explosion from the backfield. And I have the Flames going 5-7, 3-5 conference record. So again, not the worst that you could do, finishing there in sixth place for me. Week 1, they lose at home against Bowling Green. That one's going to be a toss-up game, I think. Haven't really studied the MAC teams. We'll talk about that next Tuesday. They lose at home against New Mexico State, lose at Buffalo. They lose at FIU, which is a toss-up game as well. I think they might be able to win that one. Week 5 bye. They win at home against Sam Houston State on a Thursday. They win at Jacksonville State on a Tuesday. They win at home against Mid-Tennessee on a Tuesday. They lose at Western Kentucky on a Tuesday. Lose at home against Louisiana Tech. They win at home against Old Dominion. They win at home against UMass. And they lose at UTEP to finish 5-7. Bowl berth deciding game for them at the Miners there. So the other FBS independent coming into Conference USA play this year are the the New Mexico State, and I'm blanking on what they're the Aggies, New Mexico State Aggies. I was going to say I was blanking on their mascot, but then I remembered it. Aggies. The Aggies at New Mexico State. Our guy, John Babington, alum there. But I believe I like New Mexico State this year. It's a weak conference, so it's going to set up nicely for the Aggies and to have a shot at a conference championship. Quarterback Diego Pavia returns, first team All-Independent as a flex player on offense. Offensive lineman Kanan Yarrow, second team. Linebacker Javian Gibson, first team as a special teamer, returns as well. Losses, wide receiver Cordell Davis to the NFL, second team. Linebacker Chris Ojo to the NFL, first team. Corner Cyrus Dumas transferred. He was a first team. And then safety Bryce Jackson to the NFL, second team as well. And Pavia will have some competition at quarterback because their one key transfer was quarterback Eli Stowers from Texas A&M. Highly touted recruit, never worked out at A&M, so comes to New Mexico State, transfers conferences, and we'll see if it's Stowers or the incumbent Pavia there week 1 for the Aggies. And speaking of week 1, it's interesting. They play 13 games, as do some teams like Hawaii as well every year. But New Mexico State plays 13 this year. So I have them going 9-4, actually. 5-3 conference play. The week 0, they face UMass at home. They win that one. I have New Mexico State actually starting 7-0, which is crazy. But they win at home against UMass week 0. They win at home against Western Illinois. They win at Liberty. They win at New Mexico, battle New Mexico there. They win at Hawaii, week 5 bye. They win at home against FIU on a Wednesday. They win at home against Sam Houston State on a Wednesday. They lose at UTEP on a Wednesday. And then they win at Louisiana Tech on a Tuesday. 3 straight losses, though, pretty much crushes their chances at the conference championship. They lose at home against Mid-Tennessee, lose at Western Kentucky, and they lose at Auburn. And then they win at home against Jacksonville State to end the year 9-4. as they play 13 games this year. All right, second to last team here, Jacksonville State. I have the Gamecocks coming in from the Atlantic Sun, which is no longer the A-Sun and the WAC combining to form the United Athletic Conference this year. But in Jacksonville State's last season of FCS play, they return tight end Sean Brown, who was an all-A-Sun player, offensive lineman Traylon Brown, all-A-Sun, defensive end J-Rock Swain, all-A-Sun as well. They did not have first and second, third teams. They just had all A-Sun players. Their one key loss, linebacker Stevante Tullis to the NFL, all A-Sun player as well. And one key transfer for the Gamecocks, wide receiver Dallin Wright comes in from Virginia Tech. I'm not so sure about this Jacksonville State team. They won the A-Sun last year, but it's a tough sell for me. I think coming up from the FCS to the FBS is a rude awakening. So I think it's going to be harder for them to transition, as with Sam Houston State will find it hard as well, I think. But they should be competitive anyways. Even in a tough year, I have both Sam Houston State and Jacksonville State finishing last place there. But for the Gamecocks, 3-9, 2-6, just like FIU. They lose at home against UTEP week 1. They win at home against ETSU, East Tennessee State. They lose at Coastal Carolina, week 4 bye, so super early there. They lose at home against Eastern Michigan. They lose at Sam Houston State on a Thursday. They lose at Mid-Tennessee on a Wednesday. They win at home against Liberty on a Tuesday. They lose at home against Western Kentucky on a Tuesday, which actually I have Western Kentucky losing that one currently. So I'm going to bump JSU up to 4-8, 3-5 conference record, because just to correlate there kind of with the win against Western Kentucky. They lose at FIU on a Wednesday. They lose at South Carolina. They win at home against Louisiana Tech, and they lose at New Mexico State on week 13 to finish 4-8. So now they get to jump up to 7th place there instead of having to be tied for 8th. But yeah, I think tied for 7th. I mean, so yeah, JSU going to be a tough year, but get some experience, come back next year. Hopefully it's a better result in 2024. As I mentioned, Sam Houston State, I also think, is going to struggle with the transition. They return running back Zach Herbachek, third team all WAC player, Western Athletic Conference. Like I mentioned, no longer. So these all WAC players that I'm listing come from Phil Steele's list. I could not for the life of me find the official all WAC list because it's not on their website anymore, which doesn't even really work. So anyways, Phil Steele's all WAC players, not the official ones. Linebacker Kavian Gaither, defensive player of the year and first team all WAC last year. Defensive back Jordan Morris, third teamer. Key losses, they lost a bunch of production. Wide receiver Cody Crest, one of the bigger ones, to the NFL, third team. Offensive lineman Jordan Boatman to the CFL, second team. Defensive lineman Toby Ndukwe to the NFL, first team. Defensive lineman Ellison Hubbard to the NFL, third team. Defensive back BJ Foster to the NFL, second team. And kicker Seth Morgan transferred, third team. No key transfers for Sam Houston State. I have the Bearcats going 3-9, 2-6 conference record. They lose at BYU week 1, lose at home against Air Force. They have a week 3 bye, which is really odd. They lose at Houston week 4. They win at home against Jacksonville State. They lose at Liberty on a Thursday night. They lose at New Mexico State on a Wednesday. They win at home against FIU on a Wednesday. They lose at home against UTEP on a Wednesday. They win at home against Kennesaw State. They lose at Louisiana Tech. They lose at Western Kentucky, and they lose at home against Mid Tennessee, which gets the Bearcats to 3-9. So tough year for Sam Houston State. But again, like Jacksonville State, just play it out, see what happens, and get some experience, get into that second year in the conference next season and see where you can go, get some better recruits in there. But to recap the conference, I have the UTEP Miners winning the conference 10-2, 8-0 conference record. Western Kentucky Hilltoppers coming in Western Kentucky Hilltoppers coming in second place, 8-4, 6-2 conference record. Conference record trumps the overall record. I should mention that. New Mexico State Aggies, third place, 9-4, 5-3 in conference. The Louisiana Tech Bulldogs, fourth place, 6-6, 5-3 in conference. Mid Tennessee, 6-6, 4-4 for the Blue Raiders in conference play. The Liberty Flames, sixth place, 5-7, 3-5 in conference play. In seventh place, then I have the Jacksonville State Gamecocks in their first year, 4-8, 3-5 conference record. Eighth place, the FIU Panthers, 3-9, 2-6 conference record. And the Sam Houston State Bearcats finish up ninth place, 3-9, 2-6 conference record. So that is my recap. That is my thinking of how the Conference USA will play out this year. Next Tuesday, we'll be back to Tuesday shows, but on Tuesday, we'll talk off-season week 4, all the college football, NFL news, and we'll continue our college conference previews with the MAC, Mid-American Conference there. Really excited for that one. MACtion in October is always fantastic to watch during the week. And on Friday, we'll talk FBS Independence, so that'll be pretty short there. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media at FAA Podcast on Instagram and Twitter, FAA_bets as well. FAApodcast.com is our website. You can check us out here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, as well as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, etc. Thank y'all for watching. We'll see you back for Football Friday.